I think it allowed me to actually live more, where I, in the past, probably wasn't really enjoying life.
Okay.
It was all about work. And I think coming to Spain, I was able to slow things down and really start enjoying life.
Hey expats and travelers, I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere, and today we talk with Paul, who is an expat living in Valencia, Spain. So let's see what that city is like and if you could live there.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us on Expats Everywhere. So let's go ahead and just jump right into Valencia. What was life like actually before moving to Valencia?
Sure, Kalie, thank you for having me in Expats Everywhere. I'm really excited to be here. I was kind of in the US working corporate job, 25 years I spent in corporate America, kind of that rat race, and knew I wanted to make the move to Europe. I actually studied abroad in Seville. So I fell in love with the country back in the early 2000s. So I knew eventually I'd come back to Spain, even at that point in time. So an opportunity arose with my employment to have me based overseas. And we spent about 6 months in Spain. We spent 2 months in Valencia, 2 months in Malaga, and 2 months in Sevilla. In the back of my mind, I always thought we would land in Sevilla. Like even going into it, I didn't tell my partner like Seville's going to be the place. But in the back of my mind and my heart, I really thought I was coming back home to Sevilla. And it just wasn't the same as an adult compared to like your college years. So we kind of looked at weather because at this point in time, we made a decision to just spend the winters in Europe. So from a climate perspective, we wanted somewhere that was really mild, on the ocean, and we ended up landing in Valencia. And after spending those 6 months, we returned to Valencia and then started the process of finding a place.
Okay, so you checked out a few places in Spain and Valencia was the place.
It was. It really became, for us, it was still authentic Spain. You know, it's the third largest city in Spain. I love Barcelona, you know, Madrid's great, but, you know, they're larger cities. And for me, Barcelona still has much of that tourism. It's a bit too over touristic for me for a place to live. Like it's great, like New York City, I'm from Boston, so we'll go to New York City for the weekend, 4 or 5 days, and that's enough type thing. So that's kind of how I felt about Barcelona. Like it's great to visit, but I don't know if I could personally, for me, live there year round. So we went back to Valencia and really felt it was authentic Spain. You could hear Castilian spoken in the streets or Valenciana versus all the international languages that you may just stumble across while you're in, say, Barcelona. So that's kind of why we landed with Valencia.
Would you say that you need to know Spanish if you move to Valencia, or what are the languages like there?
I do think in general knowing Spanish helps you within Spain. You know, we're here in Portugal now, and I think Portugal is much more... English is widely spoken in Portugal, not so much the case in Spain in general, even with the younger generations. So I do think knowing Spanish is a tremendous help. You don't need to know Valencian. It's, you know, Castellano is really widely spoken. So it does help in the process for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's talk about the steps leading up to moving to Valencia. How did you prepare? What did you need to do?
So I hold dual citizenship. So about 10 years ago, I started the process of securing my Portuguese nationality, which then opens the door through the European Union. Both my parents are Portuguese descendants. So I think Portugal allows you to go back to 3 generations prior and you can claim your Portuguese citizenship. So we got that process. I have my Portuguese passport and national ID. So establishing myself in Spain made it a lot easier with that. I still went through the process of getting my NIE. We haven't officially converted our residency to Europe, so we're still residents of the US. In the meantime, we're just spending 6 months in Europe and 6 months in the US.
And did you buy a place in Valencia?
We did. Okay. So it was really interesting, that whole process. We secured a real estate agent and kind of went into it a little blindly. Like I wish we had done a lot more research and we were kind of rushed to get it because I was going to start my job. So we really wanted a place and to be settled, and we needed to ensure we had sufficient Wi-Fi and fiber. And so a lot of that came into the play as far as the decision where we would live. It was really about connectivity and and the IT aspect of it
Sure.
also, in addition to neighborhood and price point and so on and so forth. But so we started looking at homes during that 2-month process. Probably went to about 15 or 20 apartments. We made an offer on one, and at the same time, someone else had already made an offer, put the down payment on it,
Oh, no.
and they kind of locked it in. Right? Then we got a word that buy fell through.
Okay,
So
that's
we got
exciting.
the call back like, hey, it's back in the market. And it was a corner unit, so bright, full of light, full of windows versus like your alleyway type apartments. So we really, really wanted this place. It fell through again with a second offer.
Oh, okay.
So now we left Valencia and moved on to Malaga for the next 2 months.
Ah, okay.
And we're there, and then all of a sudden we get a call like it's back on the market. Like literally.
It's like toying with you.
Right. So from a good perspective, we started Valencia, Seville was second, Malaga was our last stop. So my partner and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, this is the one. Let's just do it. So I literally hopped on a plane, flew from Malaga back to Valencia to close the deal. My partner stayed behind. We had a week left in Spain before we returned to the US. So I literally just went up for the day. Like we had all the paperwork done, everything, went in, got everything signed, went to the attorney's office, flew back to Malaga, picked my partner up with the dogs, came back to Valencia, and literally slept on an air mattress in our apartment. Like we had nothing. It was like, let's just get in and get things settled. We ended up extending for a few more weeks before we returned to the US, just to furnish the apartment and get everything up and running so that when we did return, we were kind of coming back home.
Awesome. So what are some things that you would recommend people do to get settled right away, like set things up? Like what are some main things to kind of feel like you're at home as far as setup goes?
Yeah, so for us, we both work from home. So obviously having office space and connectivity, that was the priority. So immediately we were at the Vodafone office, which is not always easy. I don't think any communication company is easy anywhere in the world. But we spent many hours at Vodafone trying to get that established and get our Wi-Fi up and running. To the point where I think even the manager was like, here's a hotspot. I'm giving you this complimentary just to get you guys running.
Nice.
Because I feel terrible for what you're going through right now. So we had that up and running. I think the thing we learned quickly is there's no same day delivery or next day delivery in Spain. It just doesn't really work that way. Yeah. Patience. And so immediately kind of went to get our bedroom and mattress and try to start at least sleeping well versus an air mattress that we ended up deflating and just sleeping on the floor.
Whoa,
so,
okay, yeah.
So for about a week and a half, we were literally just sleeping on the floor.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So how long did it take to get a bed delivered?
We went with a king size, which is not
European
custom.
king, right?
Yeah, European king, which is not easily available. So that took a little longer, but I'd say within 3 weeks, we at least had our mattress and bed and then started the process of hunting to furnish the rest of the apartment.
Wow.
We did an IKEA run just to kind of like, let's just get the staples in, utensils, plates, things of that nature. And it's a pretty comical story. My partner's brother and sister-in-law were visiting. They ended up coming visiting us from Portugal. They were in Évora and went over. And they left. They were like, do you want us to drop you off at IKEA? And I'm like, no, we'll just take the bus. And they sent us a video. We're back home, and we were still at IKEA. We spent the entire day from 8 a.m. till closing at IKEA.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You can do that at IKEA, right?
For sure.
Josh hates that when I want to
it's terrible.
roam.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. You did mention you have dogs. So what was the process, or what is the process when you're going back and forth with them? Can you explain to the audience a bit about?
Yeah, so when we initially took the dogs over, we had to go through the process through the USDA to get them approved to travel. So getting our vet certificates, sending that in, and getting the approval to travel overseas with them. We knew immediately once we arrived in Spain, we wanted to secure the EU dog passport for them. So we located a vet after some recommendations from some locals. We got them secured with the EU passport. And now the travel has been very easy. Going back and forth, we're really not stopped or examined or for any issues.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, earlier you said something about language being important in speaking Spanish. Is there any other thing that you would recommend people like prepare so that they can adapt easily?
I think just coming into it with an open mind and being patient. In the US, we're really accustomed to things happening fast, the way we want it, when we want it. I think this day and age, everyone's just connected to technology and immediate gratification. It just doesn't happen that way. So I think into it with an open mind. Not everyone's going to know English, so be patient with that as well. They will help you. So I think just patience and open mind. And research. I think not knowing the real estate market, for example, as far as the process and kind of being thrown into it a little bit, that threw me for a loop, especially when it came to commission and how
Yeah.
they handle commission there. In the US, usually the seller is the one who's paying the commission, and here it's buyer and seller.
Okay.
And it's not the case throughout all of Spain, from what I learned afterwards. Certain cities or regions handle that real estate commission differently. But Valencia, the buyer does pay into the commission.
Okay, so that's good to know then.
For sure.
Did you find any sources particularly helpful through like research? Anything that you said, oh, I liked this website or I liked this group?
Nothing that
or
comes to
anything?
mind right now. I think it was just a multitude of trying to get as much information as possible. So I really hit up as much as I could when we were already in the process.
Gotcha. How affordable is Valencia and what's the cost of living like?
Thanks, Kalie. I appreciate you asking that because I do think Valencia is quite affordable compared to some of the other major Spanish cities. Just to give you an example, we're in a 1,000 square foot apartment, about 100 meters squared, and starting prices can be anywhere from 125 to 150,000. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, and this is
Wow.
a completely renovated apartment. Granted, if you get into some of the more posh neighborhoods, for sure you can find flats that are running 300 to 400,000. But I would say easily you can find an apartment that's in a great neighborhood in that 150,000 sweet spot.
That's amazing. So I guess monthly, what would be the minimum you would say someone should be making monthly to live comfortably there? Obviously, we know there's lots of variables with lifestyle, but just giving an idea.
For sure. I think we've looked at it, and for a couple, two of us, we're looking at about 2,000, 2,500 a month. That's with going out to eat quite frequently. It's so affordable, even from meals perspective. We just find it easier to go out and grab a bite versus cooking at home. You can get 3-course lunch meals for €10 or €12. So I think food is also affordable. Utilities are quite low. Our water bill is approximately, I'd say, €30 for a quarter. Utilities from electricity can get quite high in the summer when you're using your AC. It does get quite hot and humid in Valencia during the summer months. So the electricity can run a bit higher, about €125 a month. But on normal, we're spending probably 50 a month, not using AC. But in general, very affordable compared to, let's say, Barcelona or Madrid.
Okay, you said something about you like Valencia because it still feels like Spain. So paint the picture for us. So why is it authentic? What does Valencia look like?
Valencia, it's a capital city, but there's a lot of Roman influence as well. So there's a beautiful historic old town. There's the Carmen district, which can have that bohemian, grungy feel with all the alleyways and street art. And then a couple blocks over, you're kind of in the posh neighborhood of Eixample and Reina Victoria, where all the beautiful mansion-type palace homes are. And then you get into neighborhoods where there's families. So I think it's such a melting pot with so many different individuals from different lifestyles, all within different levels that all kind of just live together cohesively. And it feels very welcoming and very much like a hometown. I'm from Boston, which the population of Valencia is very similar to Boston. So I wanted a city that felt like that. That was also walkable. It's very walkable and flat. And close to the ocean, which had to be key. Coming from Massachusetts, I need to smell ocean every now and then.
Okay.
So being on the Mediterranean was a major plus.
Okay. And earlier you talked about setup being a thing that was difficult. Was there anything else that initially was very difficult for you, whether it's emotionally or anything else like that?
I think definitely establishing a network of friends does take time. I think it takes time anywhere. But from a Spaniard perspective, I do feel like they're a bit more closed off until you kind of get in. Once they break that wall and you're part of their crew, they become very welcoming and opening. But I think there's always just that little hesitation from a foreigner perspective. I do believe that knowing Spanish and speaking it fluently has helped me break some of those barriers to be kind of welcomed into the little community of friends that we've made there. Even just connecting with like your local barista, who's now become one of our best friends to the point we were invited to his wedding.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so things like that. Just be social and connect, and you're going to find friends and you're going to make friends. And we did join some expat groups there as well, which was great to kind of feel like you're back home a little bit. But we're really trying to assimilate ourselves to the local culture and live a Spanish life as much as possible. So we're working to connect with more Spaniards as well.
And with this move, did you learn anything about yourself?
Yeah, I did a lot. I think we all do. I think I just learned that you can take time. Like, we don't have to rush things. I'm used to being on the go 24/7. Like I said, that immediate gratification of everything happening immediately. I learned to just take it day by day, enjoy life, enjoy the moment, and not rush things. It'll come. Everything will happen in the end. It all comes together.
Yeah. Would you say that that's a big difference between living in Spain versus the US?
For sure. I think that's what always attracted me to the European lifestyle. The age old in the US, we work to live, versus here, we're living to work. Or is it the reverse?
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
those. I just
yeah.
I might have flipped that.
Anyway.
So I think that's kind of where I've really assimilated into the European culture and lifestyle, where I don't have to rush and have lunch 30 minutes, scoffing it down in front of your computer. I can go to a cafe and have lunch for 2 hours with a glass of wine.
Yes.
Because that's more welcoming here, and it's customary in Europe. Versus the US, I think that's not necessarily the norm, or it's shrug upon to do that.
Right. Are there any other key differences that you've seen besides the lifestyle between the US and Spain?
Lifestyle, the quality of life as well. I think that's where you're really focused on family and enjoying life. I think that's where I've seen the most difference.
Okay.
Not that we don't have it in the US, but I think it's more of the priority in Europe. Yeah.
What does your daily life look like, I guess, then in Valencia? Like, what kind of things do you do?
Yeah, I work in the tourism industry, so I'm kind of on the go nonstop for about 6 months, where I'm constantly traveling. But in Valencia, we love to go running in the Turia Garden. There's a massive riverbed that used to be a river that's now turned into, they've drained the river and diverted it. So now it's a massive garden with running trails and soccer fields, basketball courts, you name it, baseball fields. It's kind of every sport you can think of is there. Swimming, running, track. It's kind of I believe it's the runner's capital of Europe. They refer to Valencia as that.
Okay.
Shopping, getting access to produce and just fresh fruit and vegetables and markets on every corner type thing that I'm not usually accustomed to that in the US, where I'd have to drive 20, 30 minutes just to get to a market, whereas here I walk out my door and easily accessible right on the street corner. And joining the restaurant cafe lifestyle, I think that's where we just love stepping out of our door and having everything at our footstep.
Yeah, definitely. So what kind of person would Valencia not fit? Like, I guess tell us, like, we kind of see, the markets, and it's quite a melting pot, but can you kind of describe a person who would probably not enjoy Valencia?
I think someone who's really looking for that nightclub party type center, you're not going to get that so much. So if that's the kind of lifestyle you're still in your 20s or 30s and you kind of want the party lifestyle, I would say that doesn't really exist so much there. There are clubs and bars, but not to the tune of something like you may find in Barcelona or Madrid.
Okay.
It's a bit more low key with like cocktail bars and and music venues. So it just has a really chill vibe.
Okay.
So nothing happens fast. It's really low key. You can find excitement when you want it. There's plenty of museums. It is a smaller city though. So I think once you see all the highlights, you're now just living there. You're no longer a tourist, right? So, and I think that's the big difference that I've seen with Valencia compared to some of the other major cities in Spain.
Okay, good. That definitely makes sense. So just slower paced there. Well, at Expats
sure.
Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So how has this move transformed your life?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it allowed me to actually live more, where I, in the past, probably wasn't really enjoying life.
Okay.
It was all about work. And I think coming to Spain, I was able to slow things down and really start enjoying life. Coming back to even just enjoying lunch for 2 hours at a local cafe. You know, that's something I wasn't accustomed to. It was always on the go, on the rush, and trying to get things done. Whereas I think now I'm really enjoying life.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so great. Well, Paul, thank you for chatting about Valencia today. And you guys, if you want to see more videos like this, then click this playlist right here. Now let's get moving.